in such a small number of levels. I'm actually really impressed. And I'm not easy to impress.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so you brought some images.
I did.
Okay, why don't you screen share? That way you can tell me a little bit about them.
Okay.
Are they all in?
You know what? I was going to actually pull them up from the website, just from what I posted on Google+.
Okay, then I'll tell you what I'll share.
Okay, great. Closing all my windows here.
There we go. Okay, can you see them?
I can.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so same thing as level 4. You're going to tell me a little about creating the image and what you think of it, and then I'm going to grade it on a scale of 1 to 3, except for we're at level 9, so I'm going to be way harsher on you than I was the first time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
This is a friend of mine, and we were just going to take, the whole purpose of it was just to take candid photos that she could use for her website and that she could use just in social media and book covers and just a myriad of things. She's a writer, an author, a coach, and she has a one of her websites is it's called the Inspiration Cafe. So she wanted some pictures of coffee. So this picture was actually taken at a coffee shop. Even though it's got the background of a ski, basically a bunch of skis. The reason I brought this photo is because it's one of the most popular photos, both for her and for me. Just if I have it on my phone or if I'm sharing it or anywhere, like it's one of photos. I took a whole series, and the kind of where I'm going with it is. I would like to either create a background that is more like this, or maybe go back and use the same background again in the future because it's just a cool background. So just wanted your feedback on maybe more posing, or what you would do to improve this, and maybe the whole concept of the busy background and model, and sort of have you share about that. I know we did a whole hangout on just skin and coloring with this model. I have a whole kind of different series on that, so I don't know if you want to take the time with that or not, but
okay. How old is she?
She's 40.
Okay, so 40 is like that in-between stage where they're still like holding on to the edge of youth and they're not quite ready to be old and embrace their wrinkles yet. So my general theory is that we get rid of anything that isn't an expression line, or at least soften it. So the older they get, the less inclined I am to take wrinkles all the way out. But I'll soften them and diminish them. And a lot of times I'll do that just by taking the healing brush or the cloning brush, but turning the opacity down so that it's only at, say, 30%. And I'll just go over it once or twice just to soften the lines. Or with frequency separation, I'll take out some of the color, but not the texture, or vice versa, depending on how deep set the lines are. So let's go in a little bit.
Yeah, I was a little unsure of how far to take it, mostly because she is a live speaker, and I didn't want her students. I didn't want her to be unrecognizable.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what we're looking for. It's like makeup. You want to accentuate all of the features and diminish any of the flaws, but you don't want to change it. So that if she gets kidnapped, we want to be able to find her, and we don't want her, redone to the point that we're looking for a 20-year-old when she's 40. But there's plenty of lines that we can take out. So basically what I'm looking for is when she makes her expression, which lines appear that weren't there when she's, calm faced, I guess, or expressionless. So like these ones, these are always the first ones that appear, and they're laugh lines all the time, which is why we get them, because we crinkle our eyes when we smile because of the way that we raise our cheekbones. So understanding a little bit of muscle structure in the face really, really helps when you're deciding what to keep and what to go. These ones right here, however, could totally go, because even though they're still part of the expression lines, they're worn in by 40 years of making that expression. You don't see this on, say, 10-year-olds or even 20-year-olds and even some 30-year-olds. So you really want to, the best thing to do is really like take a picture of someone making the same expression, smiling, laughing, you know, even more fierce looks or frowning, and see where the lines appear in everyone and at what age they start appearing for other people. So for me, this one could go and this one could go, but these ones would stay because they're definitely expression lines right around the corners of the eyes. These ones are definitely a mixture between age and expression lines. Again, because you're making them repetitively day after day, year after year, they start to crease in. It's like folding a paper over and over again. Like the more times you fold it, the deeper the crease gets. So it's the same kind of thing because your skin loses elasticity. So these ones I wouldn't take out entirely, but I would definitely be inclined to go in with frequency separation and change the color. So if you're looking at it, you can see a lot of like the pale kind of rosy color out here. And then you get that darker gray color. So you want to leave the lines, but take the color out. And that frequency separation is the easiest way to take the color out without disturbing the actual texture of the skin. So I would take the color out and match it to what's around, and that would really lighten up her eyes. And I can show you that later today if you want to send me this file, because I'm doing retouching with the group today.
Okay.
Same thing with these ones. These are definitely expression lines. If you take them out, she'll start to look like Barbie. But these ones come in later from age, so you could soften these ones up.
Okay.
And then as a general rule, I almost always take out necklines, especially here because it's actually the way that she's leaning her head. So we're getting them because she's leaning like this. See how, like, so it's not an age thing. Like I could bring my daughter in and do that, and if I have her lean her head, she'll start to do that. But again, because her skin doesn't have the same elasticity that it did when she was 20 or even 30, we've got another decade, it's going to crease sooner and you're going to get more lines in it. So these would go for me, except for the main crease, because otherwise it'll look like her neck's fake. So it's a really fine game, and the more you do it, the easier you'll get with it. But neck is one of the first places besides the face that we start to see lines. Like even in me, you can see like from me going up and down, like where these lines kind of rest in the forehead lines. So those are like a 30-year-old thing, and I'm like thinking bangs now. So same kind of idea. And really, it's easier with us, I think, as women, because really, like, if you don't want people to recognize yours, then she doesn't want people to recognize hers. So that's my general rule. But you don't want to take out so many that, like you said, she's unrecognizable. So some of it's just personal preference too.
Yeah, I mean, I took a lot. I mean,
okay,
but I mean, I'm happy to take out more. I think she would like it.
Yeah. And you know, it's not a bad idea either. Like for a while, I actually had a person that I would shoot, and I would have pictures of them at different ages and go, you know, this is us taking away, you know, 10 years worth of wrinkles as opposed to 20 years worth of wrinkles, as opposed to letting you pretend you're 20 years old again. You know, and I would do it with people like my grandmother and other people that came in, just so people could see, because like you said, you took a lot out. If I see the unretouched file, I might be like, that's good. That's not all you can take out without it being a totally different person. So it's not a bad idea to have samples like that to show people and go, you know, what do you want this picture to look like? Because really, in another 30 years, my kids aren't going to remember I wasn't that skinny when I take a few inches off my hips. So I don't mind doing that. Other people like to keep them. I don't. As far as the posing, I like the posing. The crop doesn't necessarily bother me, but I think if we were having her knee up and wrapping the hand around, that this should either be in a little bit further so that we can appreciate it, and maybe have kept her hand in and pulled out a little longer. Taking a wider shot where she's not so close is another great way to mask age as well, because the closer you are, the more detail shows up. So I might be inclined to actually go and just take this knee out in post and just let it be her shirt, just because there isn't enough that it's essential information here. The hair looks great. This little tough going straight back kind of bothers me just a little. I would want to go in and fix that and fix the part. And the only thing that I see with posing that's really an issue is that she's leaning her head back a little bit. So we're really widening her jaw. And it's because she's leaning back against the, are they skis? The background?
I'm sorry, the what?
What is the background?
It's actually a desk.
Okay.
It's the Visitors Bureau, a coffee shop at the Visitors Bureau.
Okay.
In Park City. And so literally she's sitting on the floor, leaning against it.
Okay.
So I know if I create my own background, I think it'll be easier just, with the lighting and pulling people out and not getting part of the floor. And
definitely.
Yeah.
So with the pose, because you have her here, she has this slight kick, and watch specifically my jawline when I lean forward to you and how angular that is, as opposed to when I lean back, and how squared off the jaw is. So she's got my kind of face, which is actually, when we're straight on, it's a very rounded, square kind of face to begin with. So when you have those, the last thing you want to do is let her lean her head back instead of forward, because angular chins are considered feminine, square jaws are considered masculine. So you don't want to do anything that's taking away from the femininity. So having her lean back actually makes her eyes smaller. And she's like me. So when she smiles, our eyes disappear. Like, the happier we are, the more Chinese we look. Like, there's tons of pictures of me, like, and the eyes go completely away. So when they're further away from the thing, then you're also taking them way back here. And so she's looking down. And so the eyes disappear, because in order to look down and forward, watch the eyelids. If I'm looking at you here, I have to open my eyes wider in order to make contact. Whereas as soon as I start, the further I pull my head back, the more that my eyes naturally close, because I'm looking down, almost to the point that they're shut. So even that little bit of a head tilt widens the jaw and closes the eyes. So, but that's the only thing that I can pull out. And it's slight here. It's very, very minimal. But it would have made a huge difference just to pull her forehead about 1.5 inches closer to you. And sometimes, like, that 1.5 inches, I mean, come on, 1.5 inches makes a big difference in a lot of things in life.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. I don't mind the busy background. I think it worked here. I think if you're going to work with busier backgrounds and you like the idea of having a lot of information in the shot, you did it right, because her jacket, even though it has a lot of texture, it's a solid color. So you couldn't do a background like that and then put her in, say, a floral print dress, or stripes or plaid. Like, anything, you have to pick what's going to be busy in the shot. So because her makeup's very minimal, and her skin tone and hair tone complement each other with warmer colors, and then you have the black, I don't think that they compete with each other. I think that it works. But just keep that in mind. Like, if you have models coming in and they're bringing lots of intricate lace designs, if they're doing any kind of boudoir, or they're bringing in lots of prints, then you probably want to shoot them on a plain background. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Tell me about this one.
So, so this is a bad picture, and it's intentionally bad. The reason I brought it is I had somebody not too long ago, because she's my next door neighbor. She had a lot of photos of her. She likes to be photographed, so it just makes it easy, and she's great. But have somebody tell me, oh, I bet your friend never takes a bad photograph. And I laughed. I was like, it's a lot of work to take a good photograph.
Mm.
So this is from the series. I have a bunch of good ones and a bunch of bad ones. And this really is a conversation about like angles. Like she looks great with her chin a little further up, and her head not tilted quite so much and straight on, or if her body's tilted and her face is looking at me straight on.
Okay.
But if I try to take photos, in fact, I posted on our cohort like a ton of really bad photos of her because I have really hard time with the body shots, and I didn't really get any kind of suggestions, which I would love some suggestions. So she's 5'2", and probably like a size 4 or 6, and I'm having a hard time taking a good photo of her other than just her face or just, like a 3/4 view. Anything like that includes her waist or her full body, I make her look unattractive.
Okay. But you think this is a bad photo as well?
Yes.
Okay. What is it about this one specifically that you think makes it a bad photo? Let's start there.
Okay, so the photos in this series that I thought were better is she had the beautiful jaw, and if I include her jaw, there does something to her face that it just makes it, I don't know, it looks, to me, maybe, I don't know, there's something about it that looks beautiful, more beautiful. And her nose, if I shoot her at a different angle, just her nose doesn't look as big. It looks just more flattering.
Okay.
And then just the angle that her body's it's not necessarily, I don't know, it's not great.
Okay. Let's table this one and we'll come back and we'll go into the community and look at the other ones you posted of her and look at them as a series.
Okay.
And let's move forward and we'll look at a few more first and then we'll go back to them. So, okay, tell me about this one.
So this is from a series of this is my friend Amber, and it's from a series we took here in the fall. And as I'm sort of thinking about the direction that I want to start to move in, this is a little closer, perhaps, to the sort of feel, some of the photos I took of her, of the direction that I kind of want to move in. So that's why this is included. Again, I gave you the pictures I thought were okay, but not great. I have some series of her that I love, and this one is just like an okay.
Okay.
It intentionally doesn't have connection, so I think the ones where she's looking at me, well, no, I don't. Maybe that's not it, because I tend to prefer photos where the model's looking at me.
Okay.
But I do have some of her where she's not, that I love. So I don't know what makes this a so-so photo. I mean, I think it's okay, but it's not awesome.
I actually disagree with you. I really like this one. This is one of my favorites I've seen from you so far as like a beauty glamour shot.
Okay.
I think that you pulled all of the elements together without even consciously realizing that you were doing it. But one, her expression is very relaxed, which may not be you, that may be the model. I get girls that come in that I can just shoot all day and they're fine. And I get others I really have to work for them to not look uncomfortable in front of the camera. But here she looks totally natural. It looks like you caught a moment. It looks very candid, which is always a win for me in terms of portraiture. You're also paying a lot of attention to color theory. So it's very muted, warm, earthy kind of cream tones, and it's followed all the way throughout her skin tone and the clothing that you picked and her hair color and the background. You just have this nice little sandy kind of feel going. She's got great bone structure in her cheekbones. The eyes are lit. I would like to see a little more. The eyes are it for me in every single photograph of a person. That's always what I look towards. So I would like to see a little more of the color pulled out, and with dark brown eyes, that's always a little bit of a hassle, but I want to see more of the separation um, between the pupils and the irises. So we have a little bit, but I'd be inclined to go in and just dodge and burn just a little, just to really make them pop.
I did that, so I'll go further.
Yeah, I think like,
Okay.
and it's a fine line too, because at some point they start to look like cartoon characters, and I've been guilty of that, and then had to go back in and actually pull it back a little. But I think just a little bit more would really make it pop. And you can accentuate that by actually lightening up on the eyelid just a little, usually right in here. I'll go in and lighten right here as well, and that helps make it pop. And then my piece that I don't tell a lot of people is I'll go in and actually darken right here, because if you're paying attention with really gorgeous glamour light, like if you study like Harrell and some of the like old Hollywood glamours, they position the light in such a way that you would catch the shadow cast by the eyelashes down here. So that's a really good way to accentuate long eyelashes, even if they don't necessarily have them. The longer they are, the more of a shadow that they cast on the eyes. So it's this thing that nobody thinks of. They'll darken the eyelashes, and they'll even add them in with different brushes and things. But adding just this little bit of shadow, and you can almost see it like right here naturally, how it's like darker than the rest of the eyes. So going in and just going over that like once or twice will also really help it pop. But this is beautiful overall. You have beautiful hand You have beautiful hand placement and posing. John Kaminsky would be proud. The only thing that you want to watch, this little dimple here in her arm, and she's actually got pretty thin, muscular kind of arms, but you're getting the highlight here because it's pressed against her body, which is translating as flabby. So you just want to be sure that like she doesn't have any of her arms and legs whenever you're taking pictures. You just don't want to have them pressed against the body, because watch how wide it gets the further I push it against. It's like almost the same thickness as my face at this point. So just pulling it away from the body takes inches off. And for some reason, like when we're in front of the camera and we're nervous and we're like playing with things, this is like, I'm uncomfortable, which is very, very common when you're being scrutinized by a camera in the shot. So even though her face is relaxed, this is the only thing that says, I'm not entirely comfortable. So just like when you pay attention specifically to arms and just having them pull it just a little bit away from the body, especially like if you're doing any kind of nudes, like the girls always want to do the hand bras and like cover themselves as tight as they can. And I can accomplish the same kind of implied nudity with my arm out here as I can with it up against my body. So my general rule is no extremities flat up against the body, because it looks tight then. But overall, I think this is a beautiful shot. I think you nailed this one.
Thank you. So there are two things about this as a personal challenge. Amber and I used to work together, and the joke we had going is that she doesn't take a good picture. And she was just one of these people that you take a picture and then you look at the camera and you're like, what happened? Like, she's beautiful, but like she would just take really, really bad pictures. So that was like a personal challenge. Okay, we're gonna go out and like take some awesome pictures. And then the second thing is she was by far the most difficult person I've ever photographed. She was expecting to be nervous, and she was horrible. She would give me these really, really pained expressions, and she just looked like it really, like she was in pain, and she was extremely fidgety. And she was 40 minutes late, and we were losing our son. So she drank the props, plus she had brought a bottle of wine. So I was like, okay, you're just gonna have to use the wine. So she drank 3/4 of a bottle of wine in about 2 minutes, and then we just took candids. So they were all candids. So I sort of gave her like a little bit of direction, and then just took candids.
Okay. One, drinking 3/4 of a bottle of wine in 2 minutes is a really good way to get flushed skin as well.
Okay.
But I understand the want to take the edge off. For me, I don't usually do that, but I will absolutely call them out when they're being that. So basically, you know, if she's not comfortable in front of the camera, that means you're not doing your job as a photographer. Like
I completely agree.
yeah,
I tried for about 30 minutes, and I just had a really, really hard time.
yeah. Well, you're dealing with a lot. One, you already have a pre-designed relationship, which for some people, when I shoot them, that makes it easier for them to be photographed by me. And for others, it makes it harder because they already know me, and they're actually more nervous because they're like, oh, well, you're like my friend or my family, and this is so weird, you know, especially because I do all boudoir. But at the same time, like, I have no problem calling them out, and one of the best ways to get them to relax is to make them laugh, and the easiest way to make them laugh is to make them realize how ridiculous they're being. So that pained expression, I deal with it all the time, and it's like I've even done it. Like, you get in front and like the girls are like, oh, I'm playing with my hair, I feel so sexy, but in the picture they're like,
yeah, exactly.
You know? And so when they're sitting and they're like fidgeting because they don't like being in front of the camera, and so you're getting pictures where they're like, you know, I'll be like, okay, let's do one more, try to look a little less constipated this time, and then they'll laugh at it because they're like, okay, I really do. That's always the shot right there. So if I know that they're really tight and really uncomfortable, I'll be like, okay, shake it out. Let's look a little less constipated. Let's look a little less like we want to kill the photographer, you know? And once they like laugh at that, when they don't know, like, my camera is already focused and I've gotten really good at shooting from the hip. So I'll pull it down and be like, okay, can we relax, shake it out? And I'll just like be stupid. And the whole time that they're doing that, I'm also clicking. And so it takes all of the pressure off of them, especially if you're shooting natural light, because you don't have the giveaway of the strobes going off. But if they're really uncomfortable, that's when you don't have them make eye contact with the camera. Because eye contact in general makes people uncomfortable. Like, if you ever sit and really pay attention when you're having a conversation, people make eye contact for less than 3 seconds at a time. So they'll sit and they'll talk, even like through a screen, making eye contact. If I'm looking right at you and staring you down the whole time and I'm not looking away, chances are you're going to look away, because it's actually a sign of challenge. Like, evolutionary through most species, staring someone down is let's fight. And so most people, when they're talking, they'll talk to you and then they'll kind of look over here and they're doing this and they're talking about this, and then they'll come back to you. So if you're finding that all of her pictures are like this, looking in the camera because she's uncomfortable or she looks pained, don't have her look at the camera. Have her look down the line of her body, have her look back, do detail shots, get her comfortable first. Then you can break that fourth wall and have her connect with the camera. And a lot of times it's as easy as going, okay, I want you to turn and look down the line of your body. Great, now just bring your eyes back to me. And I have to be ready that as soon as she brings it back, the shot's already taken before her brain has time to register, oh my God, I'm looking at the camera. I bet you my nose looks really big in this photo. My hips must be enormous, because all of this is going through their head the whole time. So those are my tricks to kind of get them comfortable. And then usually you only need like 3 good shots is like my magic number. Like, I break the no chimping rule all the time. So when I snap it and I'm like, this is going in my portfolio, I say it out loud and I'm like, how freaking hot do you look, girlfriend? And then she's like, oh, and then all of a sudden she's a vixen and a runway model. And the more she sees that she looks beautiful, the more confident she gets, the more relaxed she gets, the better the pictures you'll get. So it's a process, but it's hard when you're fighting the light too and they don't show up on time. Okay. Tell me about this one.
So this is one, she's my coworker and we're just shooting for fun again. And she was game for trying a beer goddess look. And it's moving in the direction of looking a little more goddess-like than some of the other ones where I started. But we're not there yet. And I brought it because I would like, it's missing a pop for me. Like, I don't know, it's like it's an okay picture, but it's not an awesome picture.
Okay.
And she actually, so she actually, I think I'm going to do more photos of her. She was really easy and great to work with. She really loves taking the time to be photographed. And she's also just told me in 3 weeks she's getting her nose done and getting a boob job.
Okay.
And so we have, and she's the one that we're going to do the dress burning for.
Okay.
So again, this is a new body type and a challenge. I think I posted another one where I totally did a bad job and I made her head look really small. She's probably 5'10" and a size 3. And so she's taller and thinner than some of the models I photographed. And then I had the problem of, okay, so she didn't like is she didn't want, you could see her ribs in her chest, which you can't really in this photo, but it seems like each body type has its own challenges. Where I would love your feedback on this is I would like to take this to a wow. I'm going to be photographing her again. And I'm not sure exactly where to go to give it.
What kind of lights are you using?
So I'm just using a cowboy studio. And at the time she came in, I think I had crashed one of my lights, and I think I had like a beauty light. It's like a 3-light setup where there's like 2 lights that you can set up on the sides and one above.
Are they steady lights? Are they hot lights, or are they strobes? Are they firing when you fire your camera?
They're not strobes. They're just
Okay.
steady video. They're video lights. I suppose you would call them that.
Okay.
And I did not have reflectors versus the one that you said you liked, the second one that we were going to touch on later.
No, I think the light on this is beautiful in terms of where you have the lights. You have these gorgeous catch lights in her eyes. And if you're looking at where the highlights are, we're catching them on the lip. We have them on the cheekbones for that Rembrandt triangles that I like. This is beauty light, but it's a little underexposed. So I'm thinking that if you're using steady lights, the wattage isn't high enough. You need more powerful lights. That's where your problem's coming in, is that you're getting the light where it should be. And you're picking it up and you're catching those catch lights. Those eyes are going to pop, but the lighting is still very flat because there isn't enough of it to create a lot of contrast. Now, I will say, and people harp on me about this all the time, but you can fix it in Photoshop. When the light is right and you get it right in camera to the point that the light is where it is supposed to be, you can go in with Dodge and Burn and pull all of these highlights and shadows out, which I think is what you're missing. But we have it all. Like, I can see all of the ribs of texture in the fabric and the highlights are where it is. You could go in with Dodge and Burn and it's literally tracing at this point, because all you're going to do is you're going to take, the lightning brush and just follow the light. And it doesn't have to be very strong. I would say keeping it at maybe like 20%. I tend to work heavier on a separate layer and then back it off just so that I can see it. So I overdo it. It's like contouring the face. When you see the first steps of that with makeup, how ridiculous it looks. That's how my first layer looks. And then I'll go back and pull back the opacity on it until it's where I want it to be. But I totally overdo it. But I would go in and I would lighten right here and along here and just a little bit along the lip and the chin. And I would follow that down to the neck right here. And just anywhere you see a highlight, you essentially are going to follow with your light brush and brush it in. And then you're going to do the same thing with the shadows, and you're going to come in and kind of follow under the cheekbones. and under the lip here to make them fuller, follow the highlight on the top of the lip, and you're just going to follow all the way around the whole body, and that will give you the punch that you're looking for in post. Because the bottom line is that it should be both. Like, you should get it right in camera, but if you don't get it right in camera, you should have enough skills to get it right in Photoshop so that the end image has it. Because I can give you all the feedback in the world and you can use it for the next shoot, but this shoot is done. I don't think that this is a lost image as far as a wow factor. This would be another one to send me, and I'll show you how I go through and do it. Like, just send me the finished file like this, and I'll just put a light overlay and send you back the PSD file so that you can see what that looks like. But I think in the future, before I could afford strobes, and then before I was sponsored and they were sending me lights, I had like 300-watt bulbs, like halogen bulbs, and they plug into any lamp because I didn't even have the stands, but I would use them and then set them up on ladders and stuff before I got like my cheap lights. But my guess is that having stronger light on your subject will help give you some of the pop that you're looking for. But the placement and where you're putting the lights and the setup that you have is perfect. You just need more light output. And investing in some strobes would probably do wonders for you as far as what you're trying to accomplish. Because it's a totally different quality of light.
Okay.
All right, tell me about this one.
So there's this one, and then I have it in black and white right next to it.
Okay.
This was another one that from that same shoot, and I recently pulled it out. It was not one of the original ones that I thought were great from that shoot. So it's okay, but it's not awesome.
Okay.
And but the reason I pulled it out is, again, it's going in the direction that I like.
Okay.
Sort of kind of fashiony, but just a little more bohemian in feel, and still has product. So I don't know, a product placement, like I guess this one is a conversation about like product placement and more fashiony type looks, and but without it looking staged. I mean, staged but not staged.
Right.
And then the color versus black and white. I had more people say they like the color. I personally like the black and white. So just your thoughts about that.
You went in and dodged her face, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you did is like classic like makeup pet peeve. My makeup artist is always calling out people that do beautiful makeup on their face and don't carry it down the line of their body to blend in. So you retouched her face, but you left the light off of the rest of her body. So it's creating a sort of mask that just isn't working in color or black and white. You can tell that it was done. So if you're going to do that, because you have the backlight, and obviously we're shooting for the sun, so she's underexposed. If you're doing that so that you can keep the backlight, and one, if you're on a tripod, you can bracket it, or you can shoot so that the background's in one shot with the exposure that you want, and you can pick up the texture of the mountains and stuff. And then the next shot, she's properly exposed so that you get it. If you're going to go in and post and do it, then the same highlights that you have here, one, you want to back it off a little on the face and pull it out a little more in the eyes. So less on the skin so that the eyes pop, because in color or in black and white, where the eyes are like,
yeah, they are.
You have that like skull kind of feel because of the shadows over the eyes. So they're sunken in. But this light, if this is the color of her skin on her face, then this should be the lightness of it on her arms all the way down.
Okay.
So, and then you would just kind of blend it. So it's this bright here. So you could take it and blend it back. Like you have a little bit of it right here along the neck, and you can blend that in. You can do the same thing, but technically where her forehead is and where the shoulder is should be on the same plane, so it should be picking up the same amount of light. So the highlight would be strong here and then maybe fade down as it comes down to here, but then it would brighten back up here because her hand's coming forward as well. So the elbows go back, so they would be in shadow. So this is the kind of thing where paying attention, like, and you can see it naturally too, like you have the strong highlight on the arm from the light source, but look at how dark it is because the shoulder's going back, and then look at how it lightens down here because it's coming forward again. So just understanding your light would work. This shot would be a scrap for me. I totally get what you were doing. So I think it has a lot of promise, and I'd like to see you redo it, but there's a lot that doesn't work. One, if you're doing product, then you want to make sure that the product pops, and you have to decide if this is a portrait or a product shot, because if it's a product shot, then this should be the star of the image, and she's secondary. She's no different essentially than a table that you were sitting it on to shoot. It's just advertising work. So you have the beautiful girl holding it, but the focus is definitely here. So pulling out all the highlights and making sure that this pops more than her, and then she pops more than the background is the way you want to go, but it's a 3-tier piece. This should definitely have front billing if that's what you're paying attention to. And then I love the bohemian kind of look, but there's a lot of details like making sure the clasp of the necklace is back, or going in post. I would go in and grab these beads and then just clone them over here as well to fill in the necklace, making sure that the dress is ironed. I'm not a huge fan of the pose with the dress. So if she had like a nice little flower child hippie top kind of thing going on and some jeans, I think it would work better. But the dress with the slit, this shape here, you have like this like trapezoid rhombus thing going on that I don't think is really flattering, but I love the pose and what you're doing. I just think it was the wrong clothing choice for it. And the wrinkles make me crazy. It's a beautiful idea. I just think we missed it for this one, but I would love to see you put some thought into it and go out and redo this same shot, probably with jeans if you're gonna do that pose, or different pants. Love the hair, love the pearls, you know, love her general style and what she's doing. And I would think about having an alternate light source, like bringing one of your lights out so that she's actually getting some light on her face, or overexpose for the background so that she's properly exposed, and give her that warm golden hour honey glow kind of feel where it's a little bit more of a matted look. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now let's go back. And look at the other ones that you said you were having trouble with her. Are they in 8?
Yep. Yeah, they're okay. So the one on the right, on the right hand side.
These ones?
That's the one I thought was good.
Okay.
Like that angle of her is the good angle.
Okay.
And the bad one is actually, there's a whole series later. It's more recent. It's right around
these ones.
There. Yeah, those are the bad ones.
All right.
Again, her arm was too close to her body.
Yep. See? Perfect. As long as you're picking it up.
Same thing with that. And then I also now know you shouldn't blow straight hair. You blow curly hair. You can do both, but the amount of blowing you have to do in order to get it to work, like it doesn't necessarily, it's touch and go. It doesn't necessarily work with that one. I'm not a huge fan of like the cheesy posing personally, unless you're going all the way to like cheesecake, Varga girl style pinup. Mm-hmm. That one didn't work either. Just the really the star of this was supposed to be the bucket, but I didn't have enough of the bucket. But also in terms of just the picture of her, the angle on her face, I don't think worked either. And none of these are retouched. They're not worth retouching.
Okay. whatever is supposed to be the star of the photo, whether it's the bucket or the glass or her, the star gets focused with light. So this would be actually third focus in the image because it has the least amount of light on it, as opposed to the beer and then her face. Like the high, because you're attracted to visually to the highlights of what you're seeing. And right now that's on the edge of her hair and the edge of her face. So that's where you'll go first, and then the light falls off. So everything from like here down starts to become irrelevant the further we go.
Okay. Yeah, and that last one was really, really bad.
This
Like
one?
this got to be one of the worst pictures. Like if you look like, no, and just so like I don't do it again, but like I don't know, like the angle of her chin.
She's posing, and that's at least half your problem, is that she's trying to pose like a model, and it's very unnatural. Like, when have you ever seen a woman carry a bucket and a beer in that pose? Like, she's
Yeah.
basically presenting herself to the highest bidder at this point. And so that's, you know, the thing is to look sexy, but also look like somebody might happen across a doorway and see you that way. And for a lot of these, she's really posing, you know,
Yes.
like, oh, look at me, I'm just mopping the floor here. Oh, you caught me. You know, like, it's just not believable at all. So believability is key. Here, there's a couple of angles, like the fact that her hand is out. That would really bother me if we were going to dissect it, but you're right. But this one, in comparison, is super cute because even though she's posing, the smile's very genuine. I could totally see her at a party, 3 beers in. I bet you she looks just like that. And that is her face and her personality. So that's what you're looking for, is the believability. And the hair's great. You could probably come in and just retouch just a little bit and pull some shadow in along the line of her hip and the front of her stomach, just because the lighting's really broad. So we're getting a really wide, flat surface around her tummy, and it's making it look a little flappy instead of toned. And I might go in and just darken it a little bit in general, and then go in and pull the highlight out on her jeans. But I don't know that this one's a throwaway. I think it's really cute, and it's very genuine expression.
You know what also bothered me about that one in terms of usability is that arm going up so far. I don't know. There was just something off with that for me in terms of.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me for what it is. I think that it would work fine, but I think that if it's bothering you for the negative space, that the next time it might be to just take that arm and bend the elbow and just kind of lay it across the top of her head.
Okay.
This one I think is super cute. Now she's super skinny, but she has a little bit of a belly pouch, probably from drinking all your beer. So it's a really subtle thing. All you want to do, and she looks like she's doing it a little bit, but you just want to make sure that all of her weight is kicked back on her back hip away from the camera. So essentially she should be able to lift her left leg up and keep balance, because the right leg is supporting all the weight of her body. Having her pull back will naturally slim in the stomach by comparison, because it pulls it away from you.
Okay. Yeah, this is when she was posing.
Yeah. So
yeah, like,
skinny girls, you know, they have the benefit of small waists and the downside of small boobs. This shot doesn't work for them.
Okay.
Because you're stretching her upper body, and the more that you stretch it, the more everything flattens, because they actually tend to separate and fall flat, as opposed to if you have her leaning forward. So don't do that if they're less than a size B. This is closer because you have that diamond of space. It creates that back curve, so it's giving her a lot more curve, because that's the other thing with really skinny girls. They don't have the curves that curvy girls have, but they don't have a lot of the extra weight that we have either. So it's a trade-off. So with girls that are super thin, you have to sort of fake the curves, which are doing really nicely here. And with curvy girls, you gotta just make sure all the curves are in the right direction, in the right place. Now this is a really busy dress, and the pattern pulls across. So this is actually her other arm here, but because we don't have the separation in space, it's making it look like this is her back and this is the front of her torso. So just pulling that arm back and away would have let us see the curve and the indent here under the rib cage, as opposed to the completion of the fabric and pattern going across the arm as well. But this one's good. She's got to drop her shoulders like way down. Like she's got them all the way hunched up to her chin and she has no neck.
Yeah.
But this is one where if you were blowing the hair, even though it's a little messy, it looks more like, they call it like ASH, like after sex hair, kind of like where you look like you just got properly tasseled, which I'm always doing in boudoir. Same thing, she's got her shoulders too high. That's going to be a big challenge for you with her, is that she naturally wants to raise her shoulders up to her chin, and you want those long, elegant necks. Same thing we were talking about before. You almost never want to pull back with the head because it squares the jaw completely. This is like cartoon male character too, like guy that's about to come in, like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Because it's like angle, 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 and it's totally the angle. Obviously, that's not what her chin looks like, because that's how much of a difference it makes when you pull the head down as opposed to up. Same girl. And these are unretouched, so there's no liquefy or anything. Like, that's just the natural angle. And it's almost never flattering to like shoot up the nose. The eyes have to close. Like, so this is a really good way to look. Look at how wide her eyes are open comparatively, and that's just the angling. So if you want to do that shot where you have her throwing her head back, then instead of being in front of her here, you want to be over on the side of her here and have her looking at you over here. Then you can get that kind of angle, but it's not what you're looking for. So instead of having it like this, where you're seeing up the line of the neck and the jaw, and you can see if I blew my nose today or not, like if you did the same thing and you like that kind of laughing angle, turning so that you're kind of almost behind her and having her laughing, you get the neck, but you don't get that squared jaw because you can't see this side of the face. Where as soon as I start to turn, you're getting this really strong angle. So you're still keeping, you know, the shape of the face, but you can keep it. And the further you go back, the more potential you have to play and keep a feminine angle on the jawline.
Yeah, so that actually helps to look at that. She's the one that really likes putting her head back, and it doesn't work for me. But you know, I was really trying to pull more different types of poses and seeing, you know, how much I could come up
how
with.
far you could push.
And well, yeah, and so I will try that.
I'm totally okay with that. I love that you're experimenting. I want you to do that because, you know, it's much easier for me to say that doesn't work when I can put that next to that and go look at the difference just in the facial structure. You know, it helps visually for you to see that than me going, when you throw the eyes back, or when you throw the head back, the eyes close, and you're like, no, they don't. Her eyes are open in every shot. You know, but when you can see it, then you start to pay attention to it and you'll catch it in camera next time. So there are ways to make these work. You just have to have, if you can't have the right angle with her, then you have to move to make it the right angle.
Yeah, and go back to that one just a little bit. Yeah, so the problem I had, even just so slight, is if you look at the proportion of her head, like I'm not really above her all that much. I mean, but look how big her head looks. Like, it's not good.
Well, it's like her head looks bigger because of, let's see, you're using the 35 to 70, which isn't necessarily bad, but because you are up here, not necessarily above her, but level with her, what's closest to the lens will always appear biggest. So if you were at this angle, but you had a wide enough lens that you could go all the way down to her feet would be comparatively the same size as her fingers. because of the perspective of it, because of how far it's receding into the background. This is why girls, if you watch them with selfies, like you see them all the time and they go like this. And even if they're not photographers, like they don't understand, they just know that's a good angle. And it's the same thing we were just talking about, because what's biggest is what you're seeing. So if you shoot from down here, then you're having all of this. And so you get this like double chin. That's the same thing. Leaning back and doing that is the same thing as having the camera right here. So this is what you're seeing, as opposed to as I start to lean forward, then I'm making my eyes and my boobs big, which are the two things that you want to make big in a photo if you're a girl. So like girls do that and they go, oh, that's my angle. Well, that's every female's angle, because it makes your waist tiny and it makes your chin tiny, it makes your eyes big, and it makes your boobs big. So it's the same kind of thing. So I think you're off just a little bit, but I also think that it's the same kind of thing where she leaned forward with her head, which isn't bad, except for she pulled her chin back. So if we were down a little bit lower, I bet you we'd be seeing a faux double chin here. With angles, because of how far she pulled her chin back towards her neck. So that's her. So if we'd had her lean forward with her chin a little bit, and we had pulled you back just a couple of inches, or pulled your focal point back with the lens a little bit and shut it down, it wouldn't have been bad. It's just a little bit of distortion. And there's this I always take with a grain of salt. There is actually lens correction in Photoshop, but you have to be really fine tuning with it to not get distorted images when you fix it. But I think you're just a little bit too close to her.
I'll try stepping away a little bit, because I did have her lean forward a little bit. I did want to slim her waist just a little, but I just wanted the slimmer waist. I didn't want the bigger face. Yeah.
So I think if you took probably 5 steps back and shot it, then it wouldn't be as bad. And you can always crop in too. Like, you know, you don't want to be shooting her across the room and cropping into this, but, you know, a couple of steps, you can always crop in if you like the crop of the image. But I would play around with where your position is in relation to her, and having her lean forward with her whole body, not just leading with her head, but bending at the waist and leaning forward with her chest as well, so that she bends right at the hip. And playing with where you are, and also playing with what lenses you're using as well. 85 is one of my favorites for those kind of shots when you're that close. But this is one where she leaned forward, but she pulled her chin forward. So look at the shadow under her chin here with the light, because she pulled it away, as opposed to here. See like how tight the chin muscles look right around the edge. And it's also because she's pursing her lips. Do not let people make duck lips. Anytime I see people start to make duck lips, I just write bang under their pictures online, like, you know, like we're duck hunting. It's never flattering. But this is one where she still has that little bit of lean, and look at the body language. Here she's leading with her chest leaning forward, even though she has her face, so it's in proportion, but what's being pulled. Imagine there was a string and you were fishing. You want to hook that string into like right underneath like the collarbone and the breastplate, and lead her forward with her chest as opposed to with like her head. And then you'll get that kind of curve that you're looking for in the body and the kind of muscle structure, but you won't have the disproportionate feel with the head with it. But also, I think this is because you took a couple steps back as well, and how close you were. Same thing though, even with this, her biggest thing next time you shoot her, make sure she's dropping these shoulders back. You know, she can keep them back like she likes to do. She's pushing them back to push forward and make her chest bigger, which is total like black girl go-to, which I totally remember from like my teens and 20s. But if she has the shoulder back, it's okay. Just have her drop it down so we can appreciate the neck. I am going to go back to this one and say that you absolutely can blow dry straight hair, because this shot, the hair looks great. I love it.
Okay.
I like that one. I'm not a huge fan of big patterns on the dress.
Yeah, I could see how this is really not working. It's just making her look big.
Well, patterns do, especially horizontal lines. They widen you. So stripes, plaid, like you have to have a really, really killer figure, and you have to be lighting to accentuate it. But essentially we're accordioning, you know, her torso to her mid thighs, because that pattern makes her look short and stocky by comparison. And then because the pattern stretches, anywhere that has any extra weight whatsoever, or even supposed extra weight, will look stretched. So lines always lead us in. So because this line curves around her shoulder, it makes her shoulder look a lot bigger than it is, and her arm, you know. And then here, like these lines, if these lines, we could flip them and we could curve them here, it would make such a difference in how our eye perceived the waist. So because we're seeing straight lines instead of this line curving around, we're perceiving that she's very flat all the way across and stocky, which is giving her a more masculine kind of feel from like her hips up to her chest, because men are angular and they're very linear and women are very curvy. So because the lines aren't curving in the dress, our eyes aren't seeing the curve of her body.
So what would you put her in? Like, what would be the most flattering outfit if you had to?
I always am looking for solid colors, or if it's lace or some kind of intricate pattern, it's sheer, so that we can still see the curves of her body as well.
Okay.
And there's a couple where it works. Like that one, you kind of got away with it. This one looks beautiful, but look at the curve. Ready? Watch these lines right here.
Yeah.
See how they kind of curve around? It's just, you have to just pay attention to where the lines are. And the other thing that makes me crazy with dresses like that is that they don't pay attention to match up the seams evenly. So this break, that makes me crazy on a personal and an artistic level. And it has nothing to do with anything except for how the dress is composed.
Okay. Yeah, this dress did not work at all.
It's not her color.
Yeah, or the shape across the bust. That did not work for her body shape at all.
Yeah, and
it was a bad dress.
I'm all about the shoulders, but this angle that you have going with the this isn't working. Her hand looks completely deformed here. And it's because her elbow is coming towards you in the camera instead of back. If you had pushed that shoulder back and had her arm come back this way, it would have worked better, but you would have to turn that wrist up so that the thumb is like here and the fingers go out here as opposed to down. Here it's better, but you're right, it's not very flattering. This isn't her, because we saw her figure in the other one, so I would go in and pull in with Liquify, because Liquify is a fun tool as long as it's used correctly. So a lot of times if I'm shooting girls in a couple of outfits and one of them's not flattering but they love it, I'll just go in and pull in here.
Yeah, I've been using the warp, so I did warp her quite a bit on some of the ones that I did keep or give her, and also darkened. You know, it's already a dark background, so I added more shadows around her.
It's okay for you to pull rank too as the visual and just say, you know, look, you know, that's a beautiful dress on you, but it's not photographing well because it's still, and we're taking a still shot, and because of the puckers in the fabric, it's actually making you look a little wider. Let's shift and put you in something that accentuates your figure. The dress is the culprit. You know, it's totally okay to go, that outfit isn't flattering you, as opposed to going, you're not looking so great in this. You're not looking so great in this says it's your fault or it's something to do with you. But if you, and it makes a difference. Like, you're essentially saying the same message. Like, you're not really we're not getting the best images of you is you. Saying that dress is unflattering, it's all in the delivery, you know, in how you do it. So saying, you know, that dress isn't accentuating your sexy figure, then they go, oh, I'm sexy. That dress is going to Goodwill tomorrow.
Okay.
But you have the right idea, because it's not flattering. Being able to accentuate that by pulling in helps, and we still got that sexy curve on the back. I would have turned her just a little more, because that would have taken off all of this in your visual angle right here. It would have pulled that all away.
Okay.
That one works. She loves those high shoulders though.
Yeah.
That's her biggest issue. And it's, you know, you have to be careful, with the neck too, because at the angle from the side, now the neck is completely even with the jaw. And where we see that a lot is like big football players, you know, or like gym, you know, gym guys that are like benching like hundreds of pounds, like, oh, I pick things up and put them down. Like they have really thick necks because of how much they work out their muscles and their upper bodies and shoulders. Girls, we don't necessarily want that. So the neck should actually be, when you're shooting from the side, probably like almost directly under her chin here. And some of that's the angle that you picked. So if you had tilted her head the other way, it would have brought the line of her face out here, and it would have made her neck look thinner by comparison. Or if you had gone behind her a little more, then it would have pulled this part away, and we would have been seeing like right down the line of the dress here. Okay. So it's just subtle angles, but it's still a drastic improvement.
It is. Jess, I am sorry, but we've gone 15 minutes over, and I've got to run to.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll be late to work.
Okay.
But could we maybe do a 5-10 minute, maybe later today or this week or something, to sort of, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I'm doing a hangout with the whole cohort early this afternoon. If you want to send me some of those images, I'll touch up. Really, you're doing great. I think that you're doing fine. I think that you can move up to the next sphere and just keep working on what you're working on. Light is going to be sphere 1 for you. That's what I want you paying attention to. And then you can drop me a line with any questions or anything you need in the meantime.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you
so
much.
Okay, have a good day at work. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.